when they're all talking, Lala brings up a situation with Billie Lee. Now, Billie Lee is right here behind Tom Sandoval, and Billie Lee was on the cast a few seasons ago. She was one of the first representatives of the LGBTQIA plus community on the show. Billie Lee is a trans woman, and when she came on the show, she would get into arguments with some of the other cast members. And I think one of the biggest issues, and I always say this still to this day, because I remember having some conversations with cast. When the cast fight, they go at it, they rip each other's heads off, conflict, resolution. They come back together. But when they would fight with Billie would always say, well, the reason that you're fighting with me or not wanting me around or not necessarily getting along with me is because you are transphobic. And I think that her throwing that word around against the entire cast probably, made it hard for production to continue to film with her, because you can't just have the entire cast be transphobic, right? Because then you just have a big problem.
Yeah, that's got to be very tough to be in that position where it's kind of like, I look at it this way. If I get pulled over by the cops and he's an a-hole, I just know it's an a-hole cop. If a black guy gets pulled over by the cops, they don't know if the cop's just an a-hole or if they've been targeted. And when you're in a minority class, like a trans person, you wouldn't know in a random altercation if it's because you're an a-hole or if it's because somebody has something against you. You only get to play that card in times like, sparingly, I would say. So and I didn't watch this, but if she's playing that card with everyone on the show, clearly not everybody is transphobic on the show, or at least, it is probably a greater issue that they're missing having a conversation about if we just assume it's because you're not liked because of your presentation.
Right. Speaking of which, I think honestly, I feel like this is just setting Billie Lee to come back to the show, especially with Lala saying, we feel like that case went cold, but now it's time to reopen it. I feel like they're setting it up to where now Tom Sandoval might have somebody to film with going into next season. But I did want to say this too. Ariana said last night on Watch What Happens Live that she did not believe the news that came out that Tom and Raquel broke up. And that came out yesterday, conveniently from sources close to the former couple, to Page 6. And I thought it was convenient only because when she posted on her Instagram story, she said, hey guys, my account has been hacked, but I just wanted to remind everybody that this is Mental Health Awareness Month. So everybody just be kind. And then boom, literally within an hour later, somebody happened to leak a mid-season trailer or a second mid-season trailer that shows Raquel laughing and smiling about the affair. So it almost seemed as if her crisis PR found out that this trailer is coming out. She's about to get attacked again. So let's try to get ahead of the narrative. And then for last night, like with them sources claiming that they broke up, it seemed like, okay, well, the finale is about to come out. Let's try to get ahead of this and say, well, it's not working out. We're not going to be happily ever after. It seems like they're constantly trying to do damage control and that the fans are too smart and they see through it because it's very convenient timing.
Yeah. And I don't see how announcing their breakup softens the situation. You would almost think that if they stayed together, that would, you could, say I've always said this, so we can look in the future, find out they've been together for 10 years, they have 3 kids, and it was the right decision. Then you could really hate on them for deceiving their friends and family and leading this lie. But then you go, in the end, they did find each other. There might be some sort of, I don't know, consolation prize there. But here, I don't know. I don't know. Does it make them look better if they did break up versus stay together? I don't feel like it's a one difference whatsoever.
No, I think it's like what Katie said on Watch What Happens Live. At this point, who else really wants to be associated at this moment? So you guys might as well stay together. However, if you look at like the fans that show up to his like karaoke shows and his band shows, you still see a ton of women who are like, Tom Sandoval, you're broken. I can fix you. And I'm sure that they would jump at the chance to go on the show because it creates that opening. So who knows? But both Tom and Ariana went over to Lisa Vanderpump's house, and you can see Ariana just squalling her eyes out and Lisa saying, this will pass. You're going to come out of this on top. But when Tom came over, Tom started breaking down and he's like, you know, Raquel and I weren't going to let Ariana, after watching all the footage, we weren't going to let her go to the reunion and stick up for us. We were going to tell her before then. Well, like you said at the very beginning, if you had this elaborate plan, I'm curious to know how you thought that plan was going to unfold, because she still was going to eat you alive at the reunion.
Yeah, it's almost like if you steal something but say, "Hey, I was going to return it." It's like, well, you didn't. And so he's like, "I was going to tell her, but you didn't, and you got caught before then." So all the woulda, coulda, shouldas just don't matter here. What I liked about Ariana is when she entered Lisa's house, she did that thing we've all done when you're super emotional, where like she was like very stoic. She enters the house where, you know, she's like, I'm not going to cry. You know, she's just like talking herself up. And the second Lisa shows up, she just starts bawling. There's just so much emotion there that Ariana has to relive every time she talks to different people within the community, which I think is a good thing. If you don't cry it out, you're going to bottle it up and it's going to come out in other ways. It's just she's doing this mourning process in front of the cameras, where most of us would just have a gallon of ice cream and, you know, do whatever. She's got to live it out. And, you know, audiences obviously relate to that.
Right. No, I mean, I agree with that. I don't know. I mean, I still feel like his huge reaction of like throwing himself against the glass window and crying and like, I'm like, Tom, I've seen this show in person, live, in person. I've seen you at work, man. And I've seen how you can turn it on.
And sometimes, and I've learned this about myself, sometimes when we react in anxious situations, when we're not, you know, like clearly he feels ostracized. And like we said before, it might be a much more like inner child issue where he's feeling these feelings of not being loved and all these other things, but it's not that he's actually sad about Ariana. And in that case, it's kind of like, well, bro, you got to figure this out, because you can manipulate someone here, you can manipulate someone there, but as the audience all watches it play out, no one's buying it. Lisa like says, like, you know, she kind of keeps her distance and she's like, all right, here we go. But it's an adult temper tantrum, really. You know, you throw a temper tantrum when you don't get what you want, and we see adults do that.
Right. And you could see she's almost like, I would give you a hug, but I'm not going to look bad on TV, so I'm not hugging your ass. So you look like you've been on a bender. You look like you're having a rough time. You look like you've been squalling the last 3 days on this apology tour. You look like you need a bath. Stay on the other couch. There's nothing I can do for you. I can just hear you out and watch your show. Let's film our scene 30 minutes and then it's tea time. I feel like that's Lisa Vanderpump for you.
Yeah, for somebody who's like wildly wealthy, she seems very normal. She seems very well put together in the way she's handling this. Obviously, she's got financial interests. She's got friends on both sides. Like, I don't know. It's weird that the sort of rich one in the crowd is the one with all of their, you know, their mental sort of abilities together.